press conference this morning, you said before we hear perfectly well. One thing does have to be kept in mind, not to be celebrated exactly right now as a challenge. We don't live in a police state now. We don't expect to leave this room and be rounded up into black lives on the way to prison for what we've said. And the day may come when that will be a very different matter. What we have is the complete infrastructure of a police state, both physically in terms of prisons, but in terms of computerless and GPS roundings where they will know exactly where we are at this point. There's a lot of dots on the map.
They don't need it right now. The moment they need it, they click the switch.
If they need it, they can click a switch. For years I've said, one more 9/11, and who could say, right or left, that that's impossible. One more major 9/11, and Muslims and Middle Easterners will be in camps to a much greater extent than Japanese were. I think there's 110,000 then, and we have a lot more here. And some of us here will be in there. We're not there yet. There has been very little opposition, if any, in Congress to this, or the President. Both parties have done it, as you said, it's been bipartisan. It hasn't been totally switched yet. We have people like, and just to show, as somebody said here, that politicians are all mixed bags, and you can lie on certain points. It was McCain just recently, who with Feinstein, another hero of mine, Feinstein-Levin, who complained about the vicious government propaganda in Zero Dark 30, which I think will have an extremely bad effect on the normalization of torture in this country. Just as Obama has decriminalized torture, decriminalized financial speculation, and now essentially the surveillance and the detention. But the difference is that whereas that has gone on bit by bit, I used to think if there's another 9/11, NSA will be turned on us in the pinball machine. Wrong, it didn't take another 9/11. One 9/11 was enough to do that, so we've got that. But the point being that we can use, and we must use, occasions like this now. The big question is what to do about it. People in this room essentially agree with Chris, agree with me, agree with him, but what to do? That's very hard, very hard. And we need creative thinking about it. I think any answer that just says more of the past, bigger demonstrations, more letters, can't be right. It's got to be imagination here. We've got to use the kind of elements that they're using, the cybernet and other capabilities like that. But what to do to regain a state that is not on the verge, that is not proto or quasi-fascism, is extremely important.
I just want to say really quickly, very quickly, that we focus on the executive constantly. We need to reform the branch that belongs to the people, which is the Congress. It's our legislative branch. Government's independence derives from its dependence on the people alone. The congressional branch needs to be strengthened. It will strengthen it will strengthen its check against the executive, and it will also strengthen the judicial branch. We need to reform our political parties, start new political parties, and do that kind of populist movement. Because there will be no reform. The executive isn't going to reform itself for us.
All right. On that note, we're going to do a very quick 5-minute intermission, maybe a 2-minute intermission at this point.